Is the data that you're tracking worth paying attention to? Most women I speak to are tracking something, some form of data, but very few are actually paying attention to the stuff that matters. And it's just creating more noise, more overwhelm, and actually it's leading to more of that all or nothing mindset. So today we're going to go through the 3 data points that I think actually matter, and the 3 that might be holding you back, the 3 that we're obsessing over, in my opinion, are a little more vulnerable and are not going to get you to the result. Ladies, welcome back to the Nicola Graham Podcast. This is another Monday short episode, so we're going to skip the unfiltered on our shorts. I'm going to get straight into it. These episodes I really wanted to launch just to set you up for the week, deliver some value, education, clear some noise, clear through some of the BS. So without further ado, and I really want you to take this to heart today, this episode, ladies, the 3 data points that I would strongly recommend that as of now, as of listening to this episode, we begin to pay better attention to if the goal is better health, better performance. We want that lean, strong aesthetic. We want good energy. We want confidence. We want to be sleeping well. We want to be feeling in control. I think it all comes down to that, doesn't it? We want to be feeling in control and less erratic. And some of these data points can have us feeling out of control based on what that number might say. But these are the 3 that I feel will help you regain control, will help you understand what your next move to make needs to be. So number 1, and this is a biggie, is resting heart rate. Now, if you are a client of mine, you might not know this. If you're a one-to-one client, particularly, I look at your resting heart rate all of the time. When you check in with me, I'm looking at what the trend is saying. And if I notice any big jump ups in resting heart rate over a period of time, not just, over the course of a day, then that's where we will talk around stress and implementing sleep and, or making sure that we're better prioritizing sleep. And for me, especially in our 40s, this is almost mission critical because your resting heart rate, particularly during the night, is when we recover. So if our heart is up, elevated, having to work overtime over the periods of 24 hours, 48, and that rolls into a couple of days, guess what's happening? Our recovery is slowing down. Our hunger hormone is wreaking havoc, and our body is not getting the rest that it needs. And I know it's a bitter pill to swallow, ladies. I've had this conversation many times this week, but we get to a certain age and the rest and the recovery is as important as all of the other stuff that we're doing. Now, I don't want you to hawkeye this. Again, it's not, it might fluctuate on a daily basis. It's more over the course of like the week and the month. I think it's a good one to just look at the trends. I've spoken about this previously on the podcast, but my sole driver for reducing alcohol, last April, so a year ago, I just noticed a spike in my heart rate. So I was tracking data on a Whoop at the time. I've since switched over to Oura Ring, but I'm only a week into using it, so I shall update at a later episode whether I'm a fan or not. But I was tracking data on Whoop at the time, and I had a little cheeky glass of wine. Just one. And I got up the next morning and I looked at my Whoop data and I was like, wow, my heart rate was so high during the night. And the only thing that I could pin it to was obviously the alcohol. And it's how hard your body is having to work during the night to just manage with these toxins. And, women talk about getting palpitations and we're waking in the night and we're feeling sluggish of a morning. And if you're still drinking alcohol, it's not to say we've got to remove it completely, but if you're still drinking alcohol, it's going to play a big part. I actually had a conversation with one of my friends on Monday and she'd had a takeaway at the weekend. Just a little bit of a nuanced side note on this. And she'd had a takeaway Saturday. She eats well. And she said, oh my gosh, Nick, my recovery on Sunday was on the floor. And I can't believe it. Can't believe it's from that food. And I said, well, it's what's in the food. So, and it was a burger and chips, very high salt meal, burger and chips from a takeaway place. High salt, which causes water retention, dehydrates the body, and therefore will have your heart rate working harder just to keep up. So when your heart rate is elevated during the night and it's not getting that opportunity to restore, you're going to wake up with a really poor recovery. If you do track data on any Whoop or Garmin or anything like that, you're going to wake up with a real low recovery. And it's not to say that you haven't been doing all the right things, but over that period of sleep, you haven't got the rest that your body needs. So your resting heart rate, really over the grand scheme of things, reflects stress on the body, and don't forget nutrition, alcohol, even working out, screen time. Stress on the body is this whole long list of different variables that can impact. The resting heart rate reflects recovery and just overall load on your system. But what I really want to stress is what matters is trends. It's not single days. So if we see a jump up and we know that, do you know what, yesterday I trained really hard and it was a really intense day, maybe it was a high step count day, then yeah, okay. We look at the data and we just use it to our best advantage. So the following day, we know that we're going to pay a bit better attention. First of all, hydration. I mean, we can't take an afternoon nap as and when we please. So we know sleep is the number one, but the following day, hydration. Let's stay well hydrated because again, that really puts your body into a position where your heart rate can slow down a little because, it's got what it needs. Good nutrition. If you are under fueling, that will also spike your heart rate. So pay attention to this around your training. My ladies who tune into this who love to train, you're training for marathons, you're doing high rock sessions, you're lifting heavy weights, you're all guns blazing. Pay attention. I will tell you if you're a client of mine, you must eat a carb and a protein dense meal post workout. And this is to recover, but it's to support this lowering of stress. Because if we can take the body out of stress mode and lower your heart rate as early on into the day as possible, then you're reaping all of the benefits from that. So if your resting heart rate suddenly jumps by 5 or 10 beats, that is generally telling you that something is off. So classic scenario, less sleep, more stress, not recovering well, under fueling. That is direct feedback, ladies, that we don't want to push harder. We actually need to pull back. And I know a lot of you struggle with that one. We struggle knowing when to slow down. So this is a nice metric, I think, to just pay attention to. If you're not using Whoop or Hour or anything like that, and you're not seeing that recovery, I suppose, in like the traffic light scenario. And again, that's not always wholly accurate, but just take a look at your resting heart rate. Number 2 is sleep quality. Now, the majority of women that I speak to, I'm probably categorising here, but obviously the women that I work with are ready to take fitness serious and level up. And we're all using these devices nowadays, aren't we? And again, hence the reason for this podcast, because some of the information is driving us crazy, but some of it is really, really informative, and the sleep is one. And here's the other interesting thing that I think we do, and we fall into a little bit of a rabbit hole with this one, is that we pay less attention to the sleep because we know that the sleep's struggling. We know we're going to bed late. We know that we're having a little scroll before bed. So we don't want to look at that, but we do want to look at, our recovery or our HRV or how many calories we've burned. And so we're being selective with the data that we're actually paying attention to, but I really want you to pay attention to your sleep, because sleep is one of the biggest drivers of your results. Full stop. There's no argument either side with that one. So if you feel that you can power on very little sleep, good for you. But imagine how you will feel when you are well rested. And the other part of this is, don't forget, when we talk about brain health and cognitive function, the way that we prioritise sleep now really sets us up for later life when it comes to brain health and cognitive function, because sleep, and I think the recommendation for brain health is a minimum of 7 hours, but I think the sweet spot is actually 7.5 hours. So just short of the recommended 8. If you're listening to this and you've got little ones and you're thinking, Nick, are you having a laugh? Let's be realistic. I am up multiple times at my babies. Well, these are fleeting years in life. I've definitely been there, and there are things that we can do that will improve the overall quality of the sleep that you do get. But generally speaking, we want to be paying attention to our sleep. I've said this on previous podcasts. I will sometimes have clients, because I'm a bit big brother. If you're a one-to-one client of me, I am seeing your sleep. I'm seeing your steps. I'm seeing your food that you tracked. I'm seeing your resting heart rate. I can see it all via our training app. And I'm also looking at your sleep and the consistency, because sometimes we can feel as though, do you know what? I'm just going to bed at my normal time and I'm waking up at my normal time. And I've done this for years, so I'm speaking from experience. And when I looked at it on paper, I was like, wow, it's only 6 hours. Because I was going to bed about 11. Felt like I was going to bed at 10, but I actually wasn't. By the time I'd farted round and, you have a little watch of something and then you're having a little chat and having a little faff. And then it's 11 o'clock. And then I'm still getting up at 5 to train and work out. And I was powering on 6 hours sleep. And then I wonder why the results start to feel harder to maintain. But it also directly impacts hunger the next day, energy levels, recovery, and, the big one, fat loss. And even if you're not chasing fat loss, we always want to be in a good position, ladies, don't we? Where our body fat is under control and we're feeling good, light on our feet. The energy is a big one for me. I speak to a lot of women who have never really experienced what a full battery feels like. Let me tell you, it feels fantastic. And once you know what that feels like, the moment something's off. So my friend on Monday, classic example, takeaway Saturday night, felt dreadful Sunday. The moment that you feel something's off, and this is how I position this to my clients in this way, because they also can relate to this, because obviously they are now better attuned to how they feel in themselves. This is how it becomes a sustainable lifestyle, because rather than that addiction to the glass of wine on Friday night or the takeaway or, whatever the less than desirable behaviour was, we are now addicted to this feeling of feeling fantastic. So we're plugging in all the good stuff, because guess what? We know what a green battery feels like, and it is fantastic. And even if you are a woman in your 40s, mid-40s, perimenopausal, yes, we're starting to feel fluctuations. Things are a little different to what they were before, but that's not to say that you can't achieve green battery. Again, we're looking at the things in this podcast that maybe we need to just do differently to keep us in that sweet spot. So we want to look at, when it comes to sleep, are you getting around 7 hours or more, realistically? Are your sleep and your wake times fairly consistent? So if you're on a journey at the moment, ladies, whether it's fat loss, health, well-being, you've got a holiday booked for the summer and, you really want to dial in and you want to know what are the best metrics, this sleep-wake cycle is a biggie of a weekend. Mic drop. We're all pretty good at the sleep-wake cycle during the week, because guess what? We've got to get up at a certain time. So therefore, that normally determines the time that we go to bed. And again, we've got the routine. So we can vaguely stick to a routine. We get to the weekend and routine goes out the window. We've got the freedom to stay up late. We've got the freedom to, have that little bit of extra sleep, lazy morning, whatever it might be. We'll convince ourselves we can have the couple of glasses the night before, because we don't have to get up in the morning, or we definitely don't have anywhere to be, or we don't have to be switched on. And so the mentality, I call it like a weekend mentality, is also an area to improve for a lot of women, because if you can sustain your sleep-wake cycle of a weekend, I'm not saying you've got to get up at 6:30, okay, but let's say we get up around 7:30, because that's normal for you. More so going to bed, I suppose, at a decent time is more what I should be emphasising here, because I think most of us, our kiddos get us up. If we've got little ones, our kids get us up anyway, relatively early. And if they don't, and you've not got little ones, and you do have an extra hour in bed, happy days. We also want to improve the duration of our sleep where we can, but getting in bed at a decent hour repetitively the night before is mission critical. So if you have a goal, an upcoming goal, and you're like, okay, I just want to get into the weeds here, I want to really dial in on the nuanced areas, keep this sleep-wake cycle on point. Give yourself 7 to 14 days. Watch the difference that it makes. Because flip reverse, if we are regularly undersleeping, you're going to feel hungrier. You're going to feel it in your performance in the gym, and you're definitely going to be recovering slower. But I think the most problematic one is it's the hunger the next day. And then because we know it's sleep, we almost give ourselves that little loophole of, well, I haven't slept well. And what's happening there is your body's chasing energy. So we re-energize, we reboot, we top the battery up during sleep. If you're not getting that quality sleep, or you're not getting that duration of sleep, then you go into an energy deficit the next day. And so your body's chasing, and ideal scenario, again, we'd get the afternoon nap, of course we would. That would be the resolution. However, can't do that. We're in work, we've got busy lives, we've got school pickups, we've got meetings and one thing and another. And so we reach for sugar instead. The sugar's going to give us the energy that we need. Can't take the sleep. So you've got to think of it from that perspective. And I could get into the nuances around, you know, how to manage this if you are struggling with sleep and if you are having night wake-ups. I would definitely suggest head over to Thriving Women community. If you want more of this insight, ladies, and I don't really mention this on the podcast, but inside of our group coaching, so weekly inside of our community, we do a coaching call. We speak about sleep, stress, mindset, fitness, nutrition, all of the nuances. And that's where you'll hear and find out a little bit more detail on how to optimize. If you are struggling, waking up in the night, you've got little ones, maybe you are very hormonal, you are under high stress at the moment, but looking at it, first and foremost, just looking at it and just paying attention to it and being honest with yourself. If you know that you could be getting in bed earlier, then we've really got to stop blaming the hunger and the lack of sleep, because it's up to us to get in the driver's seat and say, guess what, instead of procrastinating, once 9 o'clock comes and I have a little hour where I have a scroll and I potter around, and then it takes me another hour once I'm up the stairs. Like, we've got to get in the driver's seat and say, no, okay, I'm going to be firm with myself. And I'll tell you this, there is nothing more satisfying than saying you're going to do something and then doing it. And how simple is that? You say you're going to do something and then you just do it. There is nothing more satisfying than that, ladies, and it builds self-resilience. Last data point that I recommend that you begin to track as of now is your strength progression. So are you getting stronger? Are you lifting slightly heavier? Or are you doing more reps with control? Another good way to build strength progressively is, are we getting more reps with control? And this is where the real body changes come from. So this is the difference between, oh, she just looks skinny fat versus, oh, she looks like she works out. It's muscle. It's muscle on the body that creates the shape, creates the tone, hence the word, I want to look toned, muscle tone. When we build lean muscle, that's when we get the aesthetic. So it's not just about sweating more in the gym. It's not just about, can I do an extra 10 minutes or can I put a finisher on the end? It's actually progressing with your weights. And if your strength isn't improving, then I would recommend that something else needs adjusting. And it's usually, if your strength isn't improving, it's usually because we're not eating enough, we're not recovering as well as we could be, or there's no clear structure in your training. So we're going in and at random, we're just doing a little bit of, whatever machine is free or whatever we fancy, or, oh, the class is cancelled, so I'm just going to go on the elliptical trainer. Or like, we need a structured training plan, and your body will change as a byproduct of your body getting stronger. Now the 3 metrics that I want you to stop obsessing over. You know what I'm going to say, don't you? It's scale weight. Ladies, I'm going to say it one more time. For those of you who are rolling your eyes, or maybe you're in the back and you didn't hear it, please stop obsessing over a daily scale weight. Now, here's the nuanced side of this. I've just said stop obsessing over daily scale weight. However, I do recommend that if you've got a fat loss goal, you weigh yourself multiple times a week. Hear me out on this one. We want our weight to go down over the course of time. Of course we do. You've got X amount of pound that you want to lose. Well, we'd be kidding ourselves to say, oh, well, it's all muscle. We want to see our weight trend dropping over the course of time. However, daily fluctuations are very normal in a healthy body. Your weight can fluctuate daily because of hormones, because of salt intake. Don't forget that salty meal at Burger and Chips at the weekend that my friend ate, and it impacted her ability to rest, which means more water is retained, inflammation is not lowered during the night. So again, you wake up the following day, the scales have jumped up. Oh my gosh, that one meal has made me gain 2 pounds on the scales. No, it hasn't. But the salt in the meal has impacted the fluctuation, and it's just fluctuation. Other things that can impact your scale weight is stress, poor digestion. So again, looking at things like fibre, making sure that we're getting enough fibre on a daily basis, making sure that maybe we're doing dinner and done. A couple of the other variables that we look to just to improve our overall digestive health, removing ultra-processed crap as best that we can, focusing on whole foods, reducing alcohol, drinking enough water is actually critical for digestion. So anybody who's not heard me say this, and I'm sure that you all have, because I have been for as long as anybody's ever known me, the champion of just drink the water, because it really does give you the boosted energy, gives you the boost in mood. It suddenly seems to lower hunger cravings, but it really supports digestion, cognitive function, and just overall well-being. So every function in our body requires an adequate amount of hydration to optimize. Now, can you function if you are underhydrated? Yes, you can still function, but it won't be optimal. Don't forget, we're optimizing here for the best version of ourselves. So the little things like drinking enough water, and women will say to me, I just keep forgetting to drink my water. And I'm like, well, we're not prioritizing it. But then we're prioritizing things like obsessing over the scale, or, making sure that we are following the latest fad trend. And it's like drinking enough water. Great starting point. So if you are using the scale, you're not emotionally attached to the scale, which is a whole other issue, and that falls under mindset. But if you're not emotionally attached to the scale, I want you to look at weekly trends. Not just, try to remove the emotion from the daily fluctuations. We've just got to be raw and honest with ourselves. We step on the scale, we know we had a heavy training day yesterday. Maybe we didn't get the best sleep. Maybe we did eat a bit later than normal. Again, all of these variables that can impact. Let's just rationalise with ourselves. Okay, scale has gone up there by £1 or it hasn't moved. So what do I know I need to do today to stay on that trend of bringing it back down? And it's not always eat less. As I've said, if you're paying attention to your rest and heart rate, you're paying attention to your sleep quality. I've had a fascinating conversation this morning in the car with the kids about endorphin release, would you believe? But we were talking about playing outdoors, and we had Isadora's birthday last week, and we ended up spending the evening. We had our cousins over, and we spent the evening playing tag in the back garden, which was brilliant. And I was saying to the kids, the way that we felt afterwards, we just felt so happy. We were so energised. We were shattered at the same time as being energised, but we had such good fun, and we were just playing tag. So we had all of the toys and the new bells and whistles still in the house, and we were just outside. Izzy was just running around in her PJs. I had no shoes on, and we had a great time. And anyway, we were reflecting on that in the car on the drive, and I was speaking to the girls about the release of endorphins and how great it makes us feel. Anyway, we pulled up at school. We normally have like a little 5-minute walk into the school, following my rule of park as far away from the school as you can. And Isadora said, Mummy, can we keep talking about this? It's making me really happy. So then Penelope's filling us in that she's been learning about dopamine in school. And it was a really fascinating conversation. And the reason that I mention this now is that we do attach so much pressure and so much of our emotional well-being on a scale number. But yeah, weekly trends is what we want to be looking for over the course of time, making sure that we are tapped into these other variables. Number two, second data point that I want you to just scrap as of now is checking how many calories that you've burnt on your watch. I mean, oh my goodness. First of all, a lot of the time, wildly inaccurate. And you will see me post to my watch on social media. So I'm not contradicting myself here. What's the word I'm looking for? Okay, mine is blank. Pop it in the comments below. You will see me post my watch on social media because I've been in the gym at 7 a.m. or whatever it might be. Very rarely will I ever share the calories, and I'm doing that consciously. I don't even look at the calories burnt, to be quite honest. But if they're on my screen and I capture it and I put it on social media, I try to avoid that. You will notice I always try to crop the calorie burn out, because the last thing I would ever want any other woman to do is compare how many calories I might be burning to themselves. Now, first of all, my calorie burn is often very low because I'm small in height, I'm at a healthy body weight, and it's relevant. It's relevant to height and weight and all of the other things. So, I've said this before. If I go to the gym with my hubby, he's going to burn twice as many calories as me. It doesn't mean he's going to drop body fat quicker. He's a bigger guy, so he's got more to use, and we need to stop obsessing over this metric, because actually, if we're chasing calorie burn, first of all, it's very inaccurate. Second of all, we go in and we we strength train and we lift weights and we do it with control and we keep our heart rate under control and we don't burn a load of calories during the session, but we create tiny tears in the muscle, which means that we put our body into a state where it's recovering hours, sometimes days after training. Well, guess what? You're still burning calories during that process. And so we refer to it very non-scientifically as the afterburn. It's actually called the epoch effect, but this afterburn is really what we're striving for. So we want to make sure that we're progressively lifting heavier and we know that we're putting our bodies into a state of essentially progress. Over the next 2 to 3 days, we are going to see progress as long as we're eating well, we're getting enough protein, we're resting and we're recovering. We'll be torching through calories because we're building lean muscle. Versus you go for a spin session and you might burn more calories on your spin session, but you quickly jump off that spin bike, your resting heart rate resumes to its normal, and that's it. That's it, done. You've recovered. There's no epoch effect. There's no, recovering for days after. So that calorie burn is done and dusted. And now you're just back to your normal rate. Not forgetting, building lean muscle is one of the most valuable things that you can do to shift body fat because it's metabolically active, which means, ladies, that even now as I am talking and I'm using my hands and I'm doing all of the things and I am moving and I'm activating muscle, I am burning more calories than if I had less muscle on my body. The other problem that we see with focusing on calories burned is it can create this mindset of, I've burned loads of calories there, so I've earned this slice of pizza, piece of cake, insert guilty pleasure. And then that just disconnects us from our actual needs and our actual goals because we're just looking at in versus out constantly. So focus on what you're eating, have that support, performance, recovery, stay consistent over time. That's where the results are found. Number 3, bit of a nuanced one, but I want to bring this up for those of you who do struggle to get 10,000 steps a day. 10,000 steps, ladies, isn't magic. It's just a number. Now, it's a number that a lot of us strive for as a benchmark because my perspective on this is, over the last couple of years, particularly since, the 2020 mark, a lot of us have become a lot more sedentary. We work from home, we've got very little reason to move, or, we're going into the office, we're sitting at our desks all day. And so we've lost touch with what enough movement really feels like. We've lost touch with it completely. We feel that we are moving enough. And you look at your watch and you've done 4,000 steps. Well, that's not enough. That is not enough. Forget fat loss, okay? That is not enough to give your body what it needs to optimize for better health. We're always optimizing for better health. If you're inside of Thriving Women, your health is at the forefront. I am the coach who's going to actually give a shit about not just that we get you to your goal weight, but that when we get you there, you are firing off all cylinders. You are the healthiest, most vibrant, energetic, mentally resilient version of yourself. So when I talk about any of this, the fat loss is a secondary byproduct of what we are optimizing for. We're optimizing to have you in the best health of your life. And trust me, that is where the magic happens, ladies, because when you feel good, spring in your step, healthy, all of the things, that's when we build this self-confidence. That's when we walk into a room no matter what the dress size. And often the dress size is really the sweet spot that we always felt was so hard to achieve, and now it's come to us with ease, but it's because we're optimizing for health. So the step target really, especially for me as a coach when I'm recommending this, it's to put us in an optimal position for hormone regulation, for digestion, for resting heart rate, for cognitive function, for performance. When we talk about hormone regulation, hunger hormone, cortisol, dopamine, even this melatonin hormone that we need to peak of an evening to help us get into a more restful night's sleep. All of these amazing functions of the body are optimized when we move enough. Now, it's not always doable. It's not always doable every day. I've got clients who, they're surgeons and they're working in theatre, or they're in big directors roles and it's I'm traveling all day, Nick, I'm on a flight for 7 hours. Or maybe you just, you go to your job, but then we have to then pick the kids up from school and then we have to sit in kids clubs afterwards, and we've, lifestyle is, again, it's built largely for us ladies to cater to everybody else, and we're leaving very little room for ourselves. So the most important thing, I think, when it comes to your steps is just striving to progress on the week before, is what I would say. I'm working with a client at the moment, and she's a palliative care nurse. What a woman. But she does home visits. So again, I mean, she goes to patient's home and she's sat for a lot of the time with her patient, and then she gets in the car and she has to drive to her next patient. And it would be lovely if she could go for a little walk around the block in between, but it's not always doable. And so for her, we're really focused on just increasing the daily average from the week before. Now, we've gone already from struggling to get 5,000 steps a day to getting 9,000 steps a day. It is magic what you can do, magic what you can achieve when you've got the right support, the right guidance, and a bit of accountability, ladies. But the improvement that this has made to how she feels in herself, her mood, her energy, just a general sort of like spring in her step is wild. Whether or not that's impacting the scales or not, which of course it is, and it will continue to do, how she feels in herself as a byproduct. And you get that sense of achievement. So the 10,000, it's a benchmark, and we're striving there or thereabouts. You're going to see some coaches online now telling you need to get 15,000 steps and all of these other wild numbers. And again, we've got to stay switched on to this, ladies, because some of our favourite influencers, they're out there doing 20,000 steps a day. And if that's way off the mark for you, please stop comparing yourself to these women, because amazing as they are in their own right, that is an unrealistic standard for the majority of us. And especially if you've got little ones and you've got a job, and we just don't have all day to be out on foot collecting steps. So we want to remove the all or nothing when it comes to your step count. I would give yourself a benchmark of about 7 for just optimizing the day. You will see a difference to your sleep. You will see a difference to maybe brain fog, or whether you're struggling with brain fog or not, but just general cognitive function. Again, this is one of the things that I was talking about with the kids in the car, was just the fact that fresh air is medicine. Honestly, I repeat back these conversations and I'm like, was I really having that conversation with my now 5-year-old? Oh, that's the first time I've said that. My now 5-year-old and 8-year-old. But it's funny little detours that we take on our conversations, and we end up somewhere along the line just getting onto these, wonderful ways that we can take care of ourselves. And I think it's so important for our kids to be switched on to this. And likewise, it's so important that our kids don't see us obsessing over the scales. They don't see us obsessing over our fitness watches or over, every morsel of food. But we have to also understand what data helps us so that we can help them. So instead, when it comes to steps, know what your baseline is, know what your daily average is. Don't ignore your watch just because you haven't hit X amount of steps today. If you're below the 7 and it's doable, it's still light outside, or, it's before 9 p.m. or whatever, whatever feels safe for you, just get out and move. Just get out and walk and move. But if it's not 10,000, please don't stress. Please don't beat yourself up. Know your baseline. Build from there. Stay consistency. Don't forget, consistency is always what we are striving for, because that's what the body really responds to. So if you're feeling overwhelmed by data, I would love to know. I'd love to know what data you track. But the most important thing, ladies, we want to simplify it. We want to look at the rest and heart rates. We want to look at your sleep. We want to look at those strength progressions. And we really want to worry less about the scale fluctuations, about the calories that we're burning during our workouts. And we just want to dial into the stuff that matters. If this episode has helped, please, it would help the podcast so much if you take a screenshot and you either share it with somebody else who is going to benefit from listening to this, or, share it on social media. Like, subscribe, let me know if you do, and I will catch you all on the next episode of the podcast.